Some operating systems are just tools, but others, they become legends. Today, we're diving into the story of Windows 7, an OS so beloved, it basically defined an entire era of computing and staged one of the greatest comebacks in tech history. So to really get why Windows 7 was such a huge deal, you have to rewind a bit. The year is 2009. Microsoft is just reeling from a product launch that went, well, not so great. The pressure was seriously on to deliver something, anything that could win back the trust of millions of PC users around the world. And that predecessor, well, it was Windows Vista, of course. The criticism was just relentless. People complained it had serious performance issues and spotty compatibility. Honestly, users were frustrated, the whole industry was skeptical, and Microsoft didn't just need an update, they needed a redemption. Which brings us to the big question for this explainer. How on earth did Microsoft pull itself out of that mess and create an operating system so stable, so intuitive, and so popular that, seriously, people held onto it for over a decade? Let's break down how they did it. Okay, first things first, we have to really understand the specific problems Windows 7 was built to solve. It was born directly out of all the failures and all the frustrations of the Windows Vista era. So here are the core complaints. Vista just felt sluggish on the hardware people already owned. Drivers were a total mess, which meant your printers and other gadgets often just wouldn't work. And who could forget the endless user account control pop-ups, asking for permission for, everything. It felt like the OS was constantly fighting you. Microsoft knew they couldn't just release Vista 2.0. No way. They needed a complete, fundamental shift in their whole philosophy, which brings us to their new game plan. And this, right here, was the key. Bill Gates himself pointed the way forward. The next Windows had to be user-centric. And this wasn't just some marketing slogan. It meant actually prioritizing what people wanted. Speed, stability, and an interface that helped them get stuff done instead of getting in their way. And man, what a chaotic journey it was to get here. The whole project started way back in 2000 as Blackcomb. Then it got sidetracked by Longhorn, which became so bloated and complicated they had to completely restart its development. That troubled project eventually shipped as Vista. So for Windows 7, Microsoft had learned its lesson: no more feature creep, just focus. And this is where you really see the difference. Where Vista tried to be this ambitious, radical overhaul, Windows 7 was a smart, deliberate, incremental upgrade. It wasn't about reinventing the wheel. It was about perfecting it. They toned down those annoying UAC prompts, they made sure hardware worked, and they focused on making the whole thing faster and smoother. All right, so they had the philosophy down. Now for the fun part, turning their attention to the most visible piece of the puzzle, the user experience. This is where Windows 7 really started to shine. This tagline, "Your PC simplified," just perfectly captured their goal. Every single new feature was designed to reduce clicks, get rid of clutter, and just make managing your digital life way more intuitive. The single biggest change, the one everyone remembers, was the taskbar. That old quick launch bar was gone. Instead, you could pin your favorite apps right to the taskbar. And this was a genius move because it merged your shortcuts and your running programs into one single clean icon. It just decluttered the desktop instantly. And they didn't stop there. Building on that idea, they introduced jump lists. All of a sudden, when you right-clicked a pinned icon, you didn't just get Close Window. You got a whole menu of recent documents, your frequent websites, or key functions for that app. It was a massive time saver that totally changed how people worked. Window management also got this brilliant upgrade with something called Aero Snap. No more messing around trying to resize windows to compare two documents. You just drag a window to the side of the screen and boom, it snapped perfectly to fill exactly one half. So simple, so intuitive, and people absolutely loved it. And for a little extra touch of magic, there was Aero Shake. So if your desktop was super cluttered, you could just grab the top of the window you wanted to focus on, give your mouse a little shake, and all the other windows would just minimize. Shake it again, they all pop back up. So clever, so simple, and incredibly useful. But it wasn't just about looking good. Windows 7 also made some huge improvements under the hood to how you managed your files and connected your devices. So, libraries solved a problem we all have. Your photos might be in My Pictures, but also on an external hard drive and maybe in your Downloads folder. Libraries let you group all those different locations into one single virtual pictures library without ever actually moving the files. It just made finding your stuff so much easier. And then there was Home Group. Now, if you ever tried to set up a home network back in the day, you know it could be a total nightmare. Home Group simplified it all down to a single password. You could join all your computers to the group and instantly share documents, music, and printers. It just worked. So you take all these improvements, the performance, the user-focused design, the simplified features, and what do you get? Well, you get a massive runaway success. The critical reception was just overwhelmingly positive. TechRadar called it the perfect blend. It had the modern security of Vista, but with the speed people loved from Windows XP. It was truly the best of both worlds. And the sales numbers? They were absolutely staggering. In just 6 months, Microsoft sold over 100 million copies. The public had voted with their wallets, and the message was loud and clear. Windows 7 was a certified hit. I mean, just look at this chart. It really puts that success into perspective. Windows 7 didn't just outsell Vista. It more than doubled its sales in the exact same amount of time, making it the fastest-selling operating system in history back then. And this thing had legs. Its legacy endured. Microsoft supported it for over 5 years with mainstream updates, and then for a full decade with security support. Even after it was officially retired, millions of people and businesses were reluctant to let it go, a true testament to just how stable and reliable it was. Which brings us to a final provocative thought. By focusing on refinement instead of revolution, and by prioritizing the user above all else, Windows 7 became the benchmark for what a great OS should be. And it really makes you wonder, in today's era of constant updates and radical redesigns, was this Microsoft's last truly perfect operating system?